going to be reading the annotated version of The Hobbit again in a soft-spoken voice, the same way I did it last time, I hope, because Ben Gusioni, I think that was your name, whatever the last name was, I don't remember. Ben, you said you liked it, so I'm doing it again real quick, because there's a short notice, and I think I have 10 minutes to read. Last time we left off, I think I just ended the little song they were saying while they were cleaning up the plates with the dwarves. And so I'll continue from there. And of course, they did none of these dreadful things, and everything was clean and put away safe as quick as lightning, while the hobbit was turning around and around in the middle of the kitchen trying to see what they were doing. Then they went back and found Thorin with his feet on the fender smoking a pipe. He was blowing the enormous smoke rings, and wherever he told one to go, it went, up the chimney, or behind the clock on the mantelpiece, or under the table, or round and round the ceiling, but wherever it went, it was not quick enough to escape Gandalf. Pop! He sent a smaller smoke ring from his short clay pipe straight through each of Thorin's. Then Gandalf's smoke ring would go green and come back, to hover over the wizard's head. He had a cloud of them about him already, and in the dim light it made him look strange and sorcerous. Bilbo stood still and watched. He loved smoke rings, and then he blushed to think how proud he had been yesterday morning of the smoke rings he had sent up over the wind of the hill. Now for some music, said Thorin. Bring out the instruments. Killy and Filly rushed for the bags and brought back little fiddles. Dori, Nori, and Ori brought out flutes from somewhere inside their coats. Bomber produced a drum from the hall. Bifur and Bofer went out too, and came back with clarinets they had left among the walking sticks. Dwalin and Balin said, Excuse me, I left mine on the porch. Just bring mine in with you, said Thorin. They came back with violas as big as themselves, and with Thorin's harp wrapped in a green cloth. It was a beautiful golden harp. When Thorin struck it, the music began all at once, so sudden and sweet that Bilbo forgot everything else and was swept away into the dark lands under strange moons, far over the water and far, very far from his hobbit hole under the hill. The dark came into the room from the little window that opened up in the side of the hill. The firelight flickered. It was April, and they still played on, while the shadow of Gandalf's beard wagged against the wall. The dark filled all the room, and the fire died down, and the shadows were lost, and still they played on. Suddenly first one, and then another began to sing as they played, deep-throated singing of the dwarves in the deep places of their ancient homes, and this is like a fragment of their song. It can be like their song without their music. I actually used to know every single stanza or verse of this song, but now I only know like two. Pretty disappointed in myself. I'll sing the two I know very quietly. The other ones I won't. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to seek the pale enchanted gold. That's one of the verses I know, and then I'm going to continue. The dwarves of yore made mighty spells, while hammers fell like ringing bells in places deep where dark things sleep, in hollow halls beneath the fells. For ancient king and elvish lord, there many a gleaming golden hoard, they shaped and wrought and light they caught, to hide in gems on hilt of sword. On silver necklaces they strung the flowering stars, on crowns they hung the dragon fire in twisted wire, they meshed the light of moon and sun. And then the same verse again, far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to claim our long forgotten gold. Goblets they carved there for themselves, and harps of gold, where no man dwells. Doves. There they lay long, and many a song was sung unheard by men or elves. The pines, that's the other one I know. The pines were roaring on the light. The winds were moaning in the night. The fire was red, it flaming spread. The trees like torches blazed with light. And then, that's the only two I know. That's the chorus in that little verse. The bells were ringing in the dale, and men looked up with faces pale. The dragon's ire, more fierce than fire, laid low their towers and houses frail. The mountains smoked beneath the moon. The dwarves, they heard the tramp of doom. They fled their hall to dying fall, beneath his feet, beneath the moon. Far over the misty mountains grim, to dungeons deep and caverns dim, we must away, at break of day, to win our harps and gold from him. As they sang, the hobbit felt the love of beautiful things made by the hands, and by cunning, and by magic moving through him. A fierce and jealous love, the desire of hearts of dwarves. And something woke up inside of him, and he wished to go and see the great mountains, and hear the pine trees, waterfalls, explore the caves, and wear a wood sword instead of a walking stick. He looked out the window. The stars were out in a dark sky above the trees. He thought of the jewels of dwarves shining in the dark caverns. Suddenly, in the wood beyond the water, a flame leapt up, probably somebody lighting a wood fire, and he thought of plundering dragons settling on his quiet hill and kindling it all to flames. He shuddered. Very quickly he was playing Mr. Baggins of Bag End, Underhill again. He got up trembling. He had less than half a mind to fetch the lamp, and more than half a mind to pretend to, and go and hide behind the beer barrels in the cellar, and not come out again until all the dwarves had gone away. Suddenly he found that the music and the singing had stopped, and they were all looking at him with eyes shining in the dark. "Where are you going?" said Thorin, in a tone that seemed to show that he guessed both halves of the hobbit's mind. "What about a little light?" said Bilbo apologetically. "We like the dark," said all the dwarves. "Dark for dark business. There are many hours before dawn." "Of course," said Bilbo, and sat down in a hurry. He missed the stool and sat in the fender, knocking over the poker and shovel with a crash. "Hush," said Gandalf. "Let Thorin speak." This is how Thorin began. "Gandalf, dwarves, and Mr. Baggins, we are met together in the house of our friend and fellow conspirator. This is most excellent and audacious Hobbit. May the hair on his toes never fall out. All praise to his wine and ale." He paused for breath and for a polite remark from the Hobbit, but the compliments were quite lost on poor Bilbo Baggins, who was wagging his mouth in protest at being called audacious and, worst of all, fellow conspirator. Though no noise came out, he was flummoxed, so Thorin went on. "We are met to discuss our plans, our ways, means, policy, and devices. We shall soon, before the break of day, start on our long journey, a journey from which some of us, or perhaps all of us, except our friend and counselor, the ingenious wizard Gandalf, may never return. It is a solemn moment. Our object is, as I take it, well known to all of us. To the estimable Mr. Baggins, and perhaps to one or two of the younger dwarves. I think I should be right in naming Killy and Philly, for instance. The exact situation at the moment may require a little brief explanation." This was Thorin's style. He was an important dwarf. If he had been allowed, he would probably have gone on like this until he was out of breath, without telling anyone there was anything that was not known already. But he was rudely interrupted. Poor Bilbo couldn't bear it any longer. Ep may never return. He began to feel a shriek come up inside of him. Very soon it bursted out like the whistle of an engine coming out of a tunnel, and all the dwarves sprang up, knocking over the table. Gandalf struck a blue light on the end of his magic staff. In its firework glare, the poor little hobbit could be seen kneeling on the hearth rug, shaking like a jelly that was melting. Then he fell flat on the floor and kept on calling out, "Struck by lightning, struck by lightning," over and over again, and that was all they could get out of him for a long time. So they took him and laid him out of the way on the drawing room sofa with a drink at his elbow. and they went back to their dark business. Excitable little fellow, said Gandalf, as they sat down again. Gets funny, queer fits, but he's one of the best, one of the best. A fierce dragon in a pinch. If you have ever seen a dragon in a pinch, you will realize that this is only poetical exaggeration applied to any hobbit, even old Tug's great uncle Bolvar, who was so huge for a hobbit that he could ride a horse. He charged the ranks of the goblins of Mount Graham in the Battle of Greenfields and knocked their king Golfimble's head clean off with a wooden club. It sailed 100 yards through the air and went down a rabbit hole, and in this way the battle was won, and the game of golf was invented at the same moment. That's a good place to leave it off on a little joke, how golf was invented in the Middle Earth universe. Well, I hope you enjoyed, especially you, Ben. I have the same rainy wallpaper, and actually, this wallpaper here, you get it from Wallpaper Engine on Steam. It's $3. There's tons of different, there's people create their own wallpapers. You can download them. It's really useful. You can just switch it on the fly. It works for double monitors. It's great. Well, I'm going to end it here. I hope everybody liked it. Peace.